Well, hello, Avini family, and especially our international family, and especially Adrian. I'm so glad we met all those years ago, and I'm really glad I reached out to you. And oh my goodness, you're moving along really good. Plus, I think a week ago there was, I believe, a defining moment, definitely a mark that will be just forever different. A lot of people were touched, and they'll never be the same, which is a great thing. That's what leaders do, is touch people and make things better. And you're really taking the reins. And it's just the most wonderful thing that amazing things happen in the world. They could be big things because you made a decision, and that just ripples out. And for those that don't know you, Adrian and Susie, tell us a little bit about your story and where you came from and where you're here, and then this culminating point of launching your new career.
Thanks, Dave. And lovely to be on here. And hello, America, Canada, UK. I knew you a lot of years ago in another life, and we've stayed in touch with each other on Facebook. I've seen your antics over the years and your marvelous journey, Dave. And I think you've had a look at what I've been doing over the years as well. And after that life, I settled into running a conventional business. Susie and I own a gym in the UK. I started that in 2010. And the good news is I'm a few days away from selling that business. So I'm very excited about that. And you reached out to me, as you said, with a text message. And if I remember rightly, all you put on that text message was, how would you like to work with me internationally again? That got my excitement. I thought, if Dave Johnson is texting me, it's got to be something exciting. So we jumped on. In fact, we had a few text messages to and fro, and then we did a Zoom call. And you told me about your amazing journey with your health. And at first, I'd never heard anything like this before. I've never heard anything about this particular product, this marvelous product, which Susie likes to call magic in a bottle. If you're going to do that. So, that's it. Cheers. So we jumped on a Zoom call. You told me about your story, and I think I said to you, do you think it will help me? And your words to me was, I don't know, try. So I purchased this pack. I think it was a $499 pack, and we shipped it over to the UK. And I started using Avini Cell Defender. And you told me how many drops to take and to stay hydrated and drink plenty of water. And Dave, at the beginning, I've got to be really honest with everyone on here. I wasn't looking for natural healthcare products, especially Cell Defender. I was looking for a new business. Susie and I have been searching for 2 years to get involved with another business. I was very tired of doing a conventional business, dealing with staff, dealing with landlords, dealing with new businesses opening next door to you and you losing 150 members in a week. And business was tough. So I was looking for something else, a new business. So when we spoke, I was very excited by it. And I told my wife and I said, I found this new business. And she said, I think you're mad. I think you are crazy. Whatever you're taking, and she said, I think it's gone to your head. She said, I don't believe it. I'm wearing these now for reading. And the first thing I noticed after about a month was that when I was out with the dogs, and I love the outdoors, I normally go out with my dogs, and I work with a group of people in the winter, and we have what I would call a country pursuit. And on that country pursuit, some of us are half a mile away, and I could never see them. So I'd have to use my other glasses to see them. Well, after about a month, I was looking out to see my friends, and I put the glasses on and it was blurred. I took the glasses off and I could see these people, their silhouette clear. So I thought, hold on a minute. I took the glasses off and I thought, I don't need them. So that was really weird. I couldn't work out why. In fact, I think I rang you and asked you about that. Another thing that happened to me was some very weird dreams, were quite vivid dreams, and I used to have severe headaches in the morning, and those started to get less. I also had a challenge with my gums after 2020. That was those years I'll never forget. I used to wake up in the morning with a horrible stuff on my pillow. I realized in the end that I had some problems with my gums, and I'd gone to see a specialist, a dentist, and he told me that I had gum disease. And he told me, don't worry, I can fix it. Give me 5 or 6, I think it was nearly £6,000. We can do bone grafts, specialist cleaning. We can do this, that, and the other. And we can cure your gum problem. I'm always skeptical, Dave, when a dentist, someone in the medical field says they're going to cure me. And so I asked him, I said, well, how comes I've got this gum problem? And he said to me, are you on any medication? After 2020, a doctor said he was going to save my life, and he put me on some blood pressure medications. And I told him the name of that blood pressure medication. He said, that'll be the one. I said, pardon? He said, one of the side effects of this particular blood pressure medication can cause what you have. So I wasn't very happy about that. And I'm taking Cell Defender longer, and the headaches are getting less. And hence to say, a couple of years later, I'm no longer on that medication and my blood pressure is fine. So these different things, eyesight, blood pressure, and also I had a condition, Dave, and we talked about that when you was over in the summer. I call it Alzheimer's. And by the way, that's no medical claim. I don't know if that is an official disease, Alzheimer's, but if I was having a conversation with someone, I'd forget their name. Or have you ever had it where you're trying to think of a word and you can't remember the word? And the most embarrassing thing for me is I used to go to the gym in the morning. I had 4 computers and I would have to log in. And I had to pick up the phone and ring my wife and ask her what the password was because I'd forgotten it. And what was really embarrassing, Dave, is the password was password. And I couldn't remember it. Anyway, all of a sudden, I could remember passwords again. So all these things happened. And Susie kept saying to me, it's just a coincidence. And then one morning, I was laying in bed and Susie had gone to the bathroom. And all of a sudden, I saw this wife of mine come flying past the bedroom door and passed out on the floor. I was obviously very upset. She passed out in absolute agony and ended up in our local hospital. And Susie was diagnosed with a ruptured gallbladder. In and out of hospital 8 times, in fact 9 times. She ended up with peritonitis, septicemia, and eventually after 6 months they took her gallbladder out. Once they took her gallbladder out, we was told that everything would be okay. She would be back to normal. Unfortunately, she wasn't. When she came out of the surgery, she was just as ill as what she was before she went in. And that was, we can only describe it as a very upset tummy, or we call it a stomach, a really horrible condition. And for a man, that would be bad enough. But for my wife, that was awful. And she felt terrible. And you actually rang me to ask me how I was getting on with Cell Defender. And you also rang me because you knew I was up and down in the hospital all that time. And you asked how Susie was. And I told you how sick she was. And you actually said to me, has Susie tried of the Avini fibre, plus fibre? I said, Dave, she won't take it. She doesn't believe in it. And you actually said to me, put her on the phone. And you two got on the phone for a couple of minutes, and you was whispering some Dave Johnson magic into her ears. And she said, all right, I'm going to try it. She said, I trust Dave. She said, didn't trust me, but she trusted you. For the next day or two, I was putting a scoop of the plus fibre into a protein shake for her and also into a glass of water. And after, I think it was 3 days, I had my wife back. She was up out of bed. All the colour had come back to her. She was able to hold down water, eat some food, which she hadn't been able to do for a long time. And she said she felt better. And then something only my wife would do, she said, I don't believe it. And her exact words was, I think this is a placebo. So she stopped taking the plus fibre. within a day, the problem that she had came back. So I said, take it again. So I gave it to her again, and the problem went away. Previous to this, Dave, which I'm sure you know because you've been talking to me about it, Susie said to me, you keep going on at me about going to Dallas. This was this convention in Dallas, this summit in Dallas. And she said, do you know what? Let's go over and check out this company that's come to America. So we jumped on a flight. We came over. We came to the hotel. We met you and Valerie, and I hadn't met you for over 25 years. And then all of a sudden, Rik and Liz walked in the door, and I'll never forget it because Rik had a lovely cowboy hat on. I think he was yee-hawing as he came through the door, and Liz looked very colourful as well with this marvellous hat. And Susie went up to Rik and said, do you know that you have saved my life? And asked Rik if she could give him a hug. So that's what she did. And Rik spent 45 minutes with us explaining what had happened to both of us. And the first thing he said to me was, Adrian and Susie, these products don't cure anything. A cleaner, healthier body fixes itself. We spent 2 days at the event. And I must say, Dave, us Brits are very reserved. As I'm not, but the majority of Brits are. And 8 o'clock in the morning, the first day of the event, pardon me for saying this, all you lovely Americans, but we thought you were all crazy. 8 o'clock in the morning, you're full of life, and there were dancing. I think Rik was on stage doing YMCA at 8:10 in the morning. What a performance, by the way, Rik, if you're listening. It was marvellous. And all these wonderful people, and Susie wanted to find out, and me, why they were all there. So in the breaks, we would go off and talk to as many people as we could. And it was, I had this, I took this, I no longer have this. And there was nearly every person we spoke to was talking about these marvelous technologies, solutions, wonderful Avini Health products. That night, we were sitting in bed and I'm thinking to myself, what does Susie think? Because my wife is the boss, really. I'm glad she's not listening because she is the boss, really. And I said, what do you think? She said, I think they're all very genuine people, marvelous people. And I said, do you think we should pursue this more? And she said to me, absolutely. So that, Dave, is our story of that first event and how we got there.
Oh, that's pretty darn exciting. And what's really fun is we're all a lot alike. And I think when you have a problem and it's fixed, there's just natural tendency inside us. We find something wonderful. We want to share it with the people that we love. And having a business built around that idea, having wonderful products that nobody's ever heard of before that can really impact lives in wonderful ways. And you'd probably share it anyway, but then actually harnessing that natural power and directing it into a business where you actually, instead of just, if the occasion arises, where you actually deliberately think, wow, I'm going to see how many people I can impact purposefully. Now we've got a game plan, a business plan where we go out and talk to people. And it does matter what you say. And so instead of just whatever falls out of your mouth, you meet people. As an example, at the hotel we're just staying at, here's this guy, and you can't help but ask, how long have you been doing this? Tell me about this and that, and found out that he actually is just a real people person. And I said, do you like sales? We're looking for some people, and told him my story a little bit and got his information and sent some stuff to him. And who knows what might happen? It's just simply a numbers game. But if you say things really well to lots of people, pretty soon you'll get a ratio, and you do it and do it. And over time, just it becomes more and more a certainty that you'll be successful in this. And success in this business means that lives are changed and the world's transformed one person at a time. And then pretty soon you get this multiplying effect as other people doing that. And that's what we all, as beautiful friends, but we love friends that are excited and they go off and do it themselves. And wow, reached out to you, contacted you, and all of a sudden I'm not over in the UK, but you're over there. You're talking to people. And this ripple effect is pretty darn exciting. And you've actually got some people over here that are excited. So how about
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah. That was the neat bit, because when we was at that summit in Dallas, the next day, Susie and I think we spoke to Rik first. And I said to Rik, I'd love to bring these wonderful products to the UK. We've got millions of people here that need these. We need these, excuse me, we need these products. And then Neil and I spoke, Neil Roth. And at that time, Neil said to me, no. It said, it's too early. And Neil is a very good businessman. He's fantastic for Avini, straight talking sort of guy. And I was a little bit disappointed. And I said, no problem. I'll just keep building the business from the UK into America. So the way we did that was via LinkedIn, social media. And that's how we came across a superstar in the making in Canada, Jackie Andre. And she is building a wonderful team. We've become very good friends, friends that I never knew. When we come to conventions now, to summits, meeting all these new people I didn't know, and some people in the US as well. And so we carried on building into Canada. And it was about 18 months later that eventually, on the 1st of April this year, Avini Health UK was created, and we launched the business into the UK, and now it's starting to grow here. Extremely exciting, Dave.
Adrian, what we have here is just wonderful product, great leadership, wonderful people. And so, Rik, my business plan essentially is to reach out to people and get them curious enough to look at something that Rik has done, voice or audio or video or whatever. And I essentially, in my mind, I just think, okay, my sheep will hear my voice. I'm just looking for people who are looking for me. I'm just thinking in that. And there's a lot of people that are looking for what we have. And so if we just get really skilled in reaching out to people and getting them curious enough to listen to Rik, he's got unique products, and what a great personality to deliver that. It's just very compelling. And what if you actually had a country or a town or whatever it was, wherever you are, it's just the very beginning of everything. But tell us a story about what happened a week ago over in the UK, and you had somebody to build up to and an event to build around, and you called a few people and they came. And so tell us all the details about that and what's happened after that.
It all started in Vegas a few months ago, and we had a wonderful summit in Vegas. A great time. I brought seven, 10 of, I think it was 8 of us came out to Vegas. The Brits ventured across the pond. We had a fantastic summit, topped off with meeting Elvis Presley. I was extremely excited by that. Some people said he departed, but he obviously hadn't. He was there. And I think, Dave, you actually danced with him, you and Valerie. I was impressed with that. So after the event, we were sitting in a coffee shop. There was a few other Avini leaders sat with us, and Rik came up to me in the coffee shop, and we started talking. And he said, "Do you know, could you get 100 people in a room? I'm coming over to Europe. I'm going to France, and if you can get these people, I will come over, and let's do an event." So I said, "Absolutely, yes, we can get these people in there." And then Susie looked at me and said, "You." You sure? I said, we're going to do this. We're going to make this happen. We booked the date, we booked the venue. And what was wonderful was that Rik and Liz came over a few days before the event. And Susie and I were very fortunate to spend a couple of days with them. We stayed in a marvellous house in Sussex. It's in Constable country. And we had time to talk to Rik. And I say this a lot of time, it's such a lot of fun, first off, but also the most intelligent man I've ever met in my life. He has got one of these masterful computers of a brain, and very interesting. We got along very well, and we went out to where we took you, Dave, to Setford Hall. We had a lovely lunch there, and we talked about the event. And then on the Saturday morning, we went to the event, and what was marvelous, a lot of owners of companies would have just sat back, had a coffee, and just waltzed in at the beginning of the event and did his part. But Rik, that's not. Rik was in there helping me put the PA system together. We were moving chairs. We were making sure the audio was working. We were making sure that the PowerPoint presentation was all set to go. Rik was very involved, and the same with Liz as well. It was just marvelous. Not what I'm normally used to of an owner of such a successful company as Avini Health. Susie and I, it had been 26 years since I've been up the front introducing, which I could, sorry, Rik, if you're listening, I actually call Rik the mad scientist. He's not mad. His brain is so wonderful, what he's come up with, these marvelous products. And Susie and I had about 10-15 minutes to tell our story, and then we introduced Rik to the UK team. So we fell short, I must admit. We fell short a bit, about 60 people at the event. And Rik does what Rik does best. He wowed people. And us Brits don't normally get excited. And we normally, in America, you will get up and applaud. You constantly will get up and applaud. Brits don't do that. They can be a little bit dour like that. They don't want to show their excitement. But Rik had them laughing. He came out with some wonderful jokes, as he normally does. And his knowledge about the body, the knowledge about science, and he explained everything about how the products worked. People were coming up to me in our first break and said, I didn't realize how powerful these products are. And straight away, they're on their phones telling, but you should have been here, the typical thing. Fortunately for us, we had quite a few prospective customers and distributors there, and they were very excited as well. Then we had the next part of the event, which Rik then continued to woo us all with his knowledge. And then we did a questions and answers at the end, which was fantastic. There was nothing that was thrown at Rik that Rik couldn't handle. And we had no negatives, by the way. You'd think on an event like this that someone might make a comment about network marketing. People were excited. Direct sales, I love it. I love the industry. And Rik talked about that as well. And at the end of the day, we ended about 3:30 in the afternoon. People didn't want to go, Dave. They were still standing there talking, and Rik had so much time for all the people that were there. Since then, we've had a few people that have joined, and we've got more joining as prospective distributors over the next couple of days. So I think the event was phenomenal. It was successful, and now I feel we've got this new bit of momentum that has started. So we're extremely excited about that. Susie gave a wonderful testimonial. My wife, I do apologise why she's not on here today. Susie is still in the other business that we have, so she was there today. She sends her apologies, but she loved being around Rik, and Liz is such a wonderful human being. I mean, it was just, they got on so well, and it was a huge success. And I can't say any more than that, Dave. We're very excited, as you would say.
Oh, you said all the right stuff. And I just think, just thinking in my mind, see if I can remember, Carlyle said something to the effect that the great man was lightning from heaven. The rest of the men waited as kindling, and then they too would flame. And I think some lightning hit there, and things are starting to burn, and let's light this up. Let's go do
Let's
this.
do this.
All right. Well, this is great. I appreciate you. And oh my goodness. So all you got to do is just every day talk to people and build towards events. Now, February, that's going to be around before we know it. In fact, just here we are. We might as well be thinking 2026 right now. And you know what? One of the big things I love about leadership is people that are leaders, they have a long time perspective. They see off in the future. So it's so easy if you're out on a journey to maybe just look at your shoes. But if you're a leader, you're looking at the mountain off there. And I think what we can see, and we should be thinking about February, where do we want to be for Valentine's Day? And we don't want to be there alone. And if we can communicate to people just how big and impactful that'll be, because that's a thing I've always thought about also. The other thing I love about leadership is this idea that leadership is the enthusiastic communication of your vision. And you go there, your eyes will be open. You'll come home with shining eyes and you'll be communicating the vision. And that's what we do. It's contagious. Our enthusiasm is contagious. And let's get excited about this, but anticipate. Leaders have a long-term perspective. So look about, where do you want to be? Not just day to day as it goes along, but have this idea, where do I want to be in this business? Lots of possibilities, and it's just a step at a time, talking to people. And if you can get one customer, you can get two, make a habit out of that. If you can get one person signed up, you can get another one, and your skill improves. And also, you just have this confidence. It's very attractive, because if you have recruited a few people, people feel that. And all of a sudden you're moving and momentum. That's another thing I like about leaders. Leaders are momentum makers. They create momentum. And so any one of you right now, the timing's right. We all know the products are unsurpassed. This is an unprecedented moment right now. Seize this moment and go for it. The best way to be a leader is do what leaders do. What do they do? Talk to people every day. So anyway, hey, thanks. Sure love you guys, and see you soon in Las Vegas.
We're coming, and we're bringing a group of us with us who are very excited. So can I just say, Dave, just the
Please.
last point, we're coming 10.5 hours flight to come to Las Vegas from the UK. And we're very excited. Everyone who's in the US or Canada, none of you are flying 10.5 hours. Some of you, it's maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 hour flight, 7 hour flight, maybe. So I would say to everyone who's in the US or Canada, it's not far. It's a wonderful time of the year to come out there. You'll have a lot of fun. And if we can come 10.5 hours, and I believe there's going to be 8, maybe 10 of us this time coming out there, we'd love to see a lot more people in Vegas, because, as you said, Dave, you will be ignited. And it's lovely to get together with all like-minded people. That's all I'd like to say.
Yeah, it is. And all we need is more. So let's do it. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm just thinking, seeing off in the future. I've been in companies where there was just a few people. Years later, there was thousands of people. That's what's going to happen here too.
Absolutely.
It will happen. The best way to predict the future is create it. And we're doing that. Okay, let's do this. Take care. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.